All right, so in this video, we're going to talk about converting between fractions and decimals. So your goal for this lesson is I can convert between a fraction and a decimal. So first off, we're going to talk about how to go from a decimal to a fraction. So step one is you're going to take the decimal, so in this example, 0.2, and you're going to write it in word form. So how do you actually say this decimal? Well, you say it not as 0.2, but you say it as 2/10. And so you're going to write 2/10. Then step two is you're going to use this word form then to write a fraction. Well, how do you write 2/10 as a fraction? 2/10. Step three, you're going to take that fraction and if necessary, you're going to go ahead and simplify it. So 2/10 simplifies to 1/5. So let's go ahead and practice that. So here we have 0.8 and the way that you say that is 8/10. How do you write 8/10 as a fraction? Well, you write 8/10. Now, can that be simplified? Absolutely. So we're going to simplify it into 4/5. And this will be our final answer. All right, let's try the next one. Here we have 0.76, but how do you say it properly in word form? Well, you would say 70-600ths. So then how do you write that? Well, 76/100ths would be 76/100. Can that be simplified? Yes, absolutely. So how do I know how to simplify it? Well, find the GCF of the numerator and the denominator. So 76/100. So we'll make a factor tree for both. Okay, and I have a match of a 2. I have a match of another 2. And those are all the matches I have. So 2 times 2 is 4. So I'm going to divide the top by 4, and I'm going to divide the bottom by 4. And so dividing the bottom by 4 is easy. 100 divided by 4 is 25. 76 divided by 4. Oops, 76 is going to be 19. And so 19/25 is our final answer. So simplifying is the hardest step. All right, next one. How do you say this? Well, 0.025, that's going to be 25 thousandths. So how do we write that? Well, 25/1000. Can we simplify that? Absolutely. Well, let's make a factor tree of both of them. So here I have a 5 and there, and then I have a 5 here and a 5 here. So 5 times 5 is 25. So 25 divided by 25 is 1. And 1,000 divided by 25. So 25 goes into 100 4 times. Bring down the 0. 25 goes into 100 or into 0 0 times. So 1 over 40. All right, so let's see. Let's do these. So 1.2, how do you say that? Well, you say 1 and, because remember the decimal is always and, 2/10. So this 1 is our whole number. So 1 and then 2/10. Now can that be simplified? Absolutely. The whole number cannot be simplified, that stays, but 2/10 would simplify to 1/5. Okay, now the next one here, this is going to be 6.25. Remember the decimal is and 6 is your whole number. So 6 and 20 dash 5 hundredths. So 6 and 25 over 100. Now, can that be simplified? Yes. So 6 is our whole number. So what's the GCF of 25 and 100? So we have 25 and we have 100. So we have a 5 here and a 5 here. And I have a 5 here and a 5 here. So 25. So 25 divided by 25 is 1. And 100 divided by 25 is 4. So 6 and 1/4. And then this one is a little tricky here. So here I have, remember 5 is the whole number and our decimal is and. So 5 and 300 48 thousandths. So 5 is our whole number and then 348 over 1,000. Now that can definitely be simplified. So we'll do a factor tree for 348 and one for 1,000. We'll do the one for 1,000 first. Okay. So it looks like I can split this up into 2. So 2 divided by 348. So 174. I can break 174 up into 2 again. $87. Now 87 can split up into 3. And 29 is prime. So what are our matches? We have a 2 here and a 2 here. We have a 2 here and a 2 here. And that is all we have. So 2 times 2 is 4. So we already know that 1,000 divided by 4 is 40 because we just did that. But what is 348 divided by 4? Well, let's see. 87. Nope, that's wrong. Did I do that right? Let's see. Let's try that again. Oh, oops. 1,000 divided by 4 is not 40. I lied, it's 250. 87 over 250. I was thinking of another problem. There we go. All right, so if we were doing this lesson in class, we would stop and do a practice worksheet, but I'm going to keep going because we're not in class. Now, that was going from decimals to fractions. So how do you go now from fractions to decimals? Well, you have two different options, and the options work differently depending on the fraction that you're given. So here is option number 1. Option number 1 says, see if you can make an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, etc. So for example, if I gave you the fraction 1/5 and I said make a decimal, what you could do is you could take this 5 and multiply it times 2 to make 10. And then you also multiply the top times 2 and you'll get 2. So you have 2 over 10. Now, once you have the bottom as 10, you can say that this is 2/10, and we move on to step 2. So 2 over 10 is 2/10, which is 0.2. Now, we're going to look at more examples of this, but this won't always work because, for example, if I have 1 over 3, 3 will not go into 10 or 100 or 1,000, etc. And so there's another solution for that. So this is another example of option 1. So if you have 5/10, that'd be 0.5. 72 over 72 hundredths is 0.72. 638 thousandths is 0.638. Now, option 2 is you can just strictly divide. Now, this is not such a good picture, so I'm going to show you an example with 1 over 8. So if I have 1 over 8, that's not one that I can make into a 10, a 100, or a 1,000. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of flip it upside down, okay? So the denominator is going to go on the outside, and the numerator is going to go on the inside. So 8 goes into 1 0 times. I subtract 1 minus 0, oops, 1 minus 0 is 1. I'm going to add a decimal, bring it to the roof, add a 0, and bring it down. 8 goes into 10 one time. 1 times 8 is 8. Subtract, and I get 2. Add another 0, bring it down. 8 goes into 20 2 times. 2 times 8 is 16. Subtract, and I get 4. Add another 0, bring it down. 8 goes into 40 5 times. 5 times 8 is 40. Subtract, I get 0. So the decimal is 0.125. Okay? So here's some quick examples. What fraction of the triangles are colored in? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 over 8, 9, 10. How do you write that in word form? Well, 7/10. And then how do you write that as a decimal? 0.7. Let's look at another one. What fraction of the triangles are colored in? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 over 10. Resist the urge to reduce it because you want to keep the 10 as the denominator. How do you write that in word form? 4/10. And then how do you write that as a decimal? 0.4. So let's look at some actual examples. So this is an easy one, 1/10. That's going to be 0.1. Now, 4 over 20. So you can do this a couple different ways. Can we get this 20 to be either a 10 or 100? Yes, we can. Okay, but remember, whatever we do to the bottom, we also have to do to the top. So what we can do is we can multiply the bottom by 5, because 20 times 5 is 100. But if I multiply the bottom by 5, I have to multiply the top by 5. So 4 times 5 is 20. So that says 20 hundredths. So that's 0.20. And that's going to be the final answer. Okay. Next one is 5 over 8. Well, 8 is not going to go into 10 or to 100 or 1,000. So this is one that I'm going to have to divide for. So I'm going to flip it upside down. The 8 is going to go on the outside. The top is going to go on the inside. 8 goes into 5 0 times. Subtract. Add a decimal. Bring it to the roof. Add a 0. Bring it down. 8 goes into 50 6 times. Had a brain fart. 6 times 8 is 48. Subtract. You get 2. Add a 0. Bring it down. 8 goes into 20 twice. 16. Subtract. You get 4. Add a 0. Bring it down. 8 goes into 45 times. Subtract, and you get 0. So your final answer here is 625 thousandths, or 0.625. All right, let's look at another example, 3 over 4. So 4 can go into 100 if we multiply times 25, but remember, whatever we do to the bottom, we also have to do to the top. So 4 times 25 is 100. 3 times 25 is 75. So that says 75 hundredths, and that's all that is. So then 50 can also go into 100 if we multiply times 2, but we also have to multiply the top times 2. So 50 times 2 is 100. 2 times 2 is 4, so that's 4 hundredths, and that's how we write that. And then we have 9 over 6. Now 6 cannot go into 10 or to 100, so we're going to have to flip it over and divide. So 6 is on the outside, 9 is on the inside. 6 goes into 9 one time. Subtract. Add a decimal, bring it to the roof, add a 0, bring it down. 6 goes into 30 5 times evenly. So the answer to this one would be 1.5. And then at this point, we would also do a worksheet in class, but because we are not in class, that is the end of this lesson, but we will practice more in class.